Okay, guys. So this is Mike from Unknown Tech IO, and I wanted to just give the final 2025 Home Lab update for the 2025 year, as I won't be changing anything. I know I've gone through a lot of changes, but I think I finally got it to a place where it's ready to go. So let's go in to the utility room where my new lab rack is, and you can see the rack right here. So this right here is a sys rack. I bought this off of Amazon. It's a 18U rack. I want to say I've spent about $300 shipped. Not bad. So it comes with the rack. And of course, it came with this PDU here that you see, which is going to be replaced very soon. And I actually added some things here, which we'll talk about. So let's start from the top. So this is the NAS that you've all seen before. This is the QNAP TS1635. I've had this NAS for about 4 years now. This runs pretty much all of my archival storage and backup storage for specific things. And then it tiers off to Backblaze cloud services or cloud storage for the most critical files. So, of course, cloud storage is extremely expensive. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be moved to my brother's business here in the next couple months or so. And then this will act solely as a backup archival solution at a remote location. What this has in it hasn't changed much, is 8 16 terabyte Seagate XOS hard drives. They've been great drives. I haven't had a single issue with them, knock on wood. The top four, 3.5, actually are 2.5. All these bays can do 2.5, 3.5, except these 4 bays only can do 2.5. These 4 bays here house four 1 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolf NAS Pro SSDs, and then these hold some Samsung almost 500 gig enterprise SSDs, which will be replaced with these 1.92 SSDs. These actually house the containers and VMs that are running. I only have 2 VMs running on this and a couple containers running on this device right now. It is an old device. It's a first gen Xeon D platform, 4 cores, 8 threads, and I upgraded this from 32 gigs of ECC DDR4 to 128 gigabytes. There are 6, I believe, M.2 slots on the main board in this device. At the time, NVMe was not really prevalent. It was very expensive when I bought this, and so it was basically M.2 form factor, but for SSDs only. And I don't use those at all. There are also 2 by 8 PCIe ports on this board. One of them is populated with a QNAP dual M.2 add-in card, which actually houses 2 Optane SSDs for the caching. So basically, the 2 Optane drives within the device itself on the add-in card are caching for the storage. The 4 1 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolf NAS Pro SSDs are for the Q tier to tier hot data. And then this is my cold storage down here. And then, of course, these SSDs that are in the 2.5-inch bays will be replaced with these 4 1.92 terabyte enterprise SSDs. So that's the NAS. It's not the primary NAS right now. I'll talk about that here in a little bit as we go upstairs and go to the mini lab rack in my office where I house my primary NAS and some other things. But let's just focus on this. So as we go down, we have the Triplite PDU, which is actually going to be taken out, as well as this PDU that actually came with it, as soon as the UniFi PDU becomes available and is in stock. That requires 2U of rack space, so I'll be taking this out and the Triplite PDU, and then I'll be taking the UniFi NVR or UNVR, and I'll be placing it up top, and I'll have that 2U of space for the PDU there. The top device here, I got this brush panel to actually run these cables through and make it nice and neat. This is the tried and true Dream Machine SE. I love this device. This is my main, core routing and control plane of my entire network in the house. And I just love it, right? So right now it's not running anything other than the networking pieces of it, there's no add-on services I'm using at all in the Dream Machine. You can run a bunch of services on this device to include access control, NVR, and other capabilities as well, other services as well. I do have my cables color coded. You can see here I had the internet coming in. It's coming in from this box here. And that is 600 down, I want to say 15 up from, or 20 up, possibly 20, 25 up, I can't recall, from Spectrum. That's where the incoming internet comes in. These white cables actually are connecting back to some other devices. Mainly, this is for PoE. So this Dream Machine SE has 8 PoE ports, and using this for out-of-band management as well as PoE ports for the UniFi cameras for my home. So basically, I don't have a standard 2.5 or 1 gig PoE switch. I use the Dream Machine ports here. That's the only thing that concerns me, is I'm out of port capacity on this device right now, so I can't add any more PoE to the network here unless I get a new PoE switch or use PoE injectors and use my 10 gig switch. So I went and bought the UniFi Keystone patch panel and some Keystone jacks, pass-through jacks from Amazon. They're Cat 7. They work great. Basically, this side here is for the servers, right? Black cables denote VM and container storage. You'll see the red here, that actually connects to a SFP to RJ45 adapter on my UNVR in the back. This black cable is for the VM traffic and container traffic on the NAS. The green cable is also another 10 gig connection to the NAS, but that is for management and storage traffic. And then this 10 gig connection here is a trunk that goes to my office upstairs into the Flex XG switches, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. The next switch I have here is the 10 gig UniFi XG24 Enterprise switch. This is a great switch. It's 24 10 gig ports and 2 25 gig ports over here. You can see here I have the Dream Machine and the XG Enterprise switch trunk together or cable together through the SFP ports, and those are connected. This really can act as an aggregation switch as well, even though I'm not using it as such in most cases. I do have some aggregation, right, obviously from the office upstairs, but in reality, there's some things I'm going to show you upstairs that probably aren't best practice, but are very convenient for me. So we're going to leave it for that for now, and we'll talk about that in a little while. I also went and purchased the port covers here to avoid dust or any dirt to get into the ports that are being unused right now. And then I went and purchased this 2U grate, basically to allow airflow to actually pass through and out the fan that's actually at the bottom, or excuse me, the top of this rack. Then we have the PDU, and then the UNVR. This is a great 4-drive NVR. Right now, I only have 16 terabytes total storage in there right now. I probably will be replacing the drives in here because they are NAS hard drives, and I'll be honest, I'm using older Seagate 4 terabyte NAS hard drives, and I've already lost 2 already, probably due to age, but also due to the usage. So I'm going to get some surveillance hard drives, probably go to like 10 terabytes. I don't need that much. I think going to like 10 terabytes per drive, that'll probably be one purchase that's going to happen in 2025. I'm trying to avoid any purchases for technology in 2025, but that may be one if I do anything. Okay, on to the servers. I have 2 Sliger 3U cases. I love these cases. They're a bit expensive, but they're built very well. They're basically made of steel. I do have 2 covers. These covers pop off here, and they're colored. You can actually get different colors. I have white, so it'll match the rack. And so those 2 covers are on their way here, and I'll replace those. And so I'll have mostly white in this rack, or silver. And the only thing that'll be black eventually will just be the CyberPower PDU, which I actually just bought and purchased and input in this rack as well. And I replaced my standalone UPS, which is actually CyberPower UPS, that actually went upstairs in my home office. So these servers here are the same exact servers. The model of the motherboard is a little bit different. has the Broadcom chip, so it's basically the Rome 8, or excuse me, Rome 2T8 motherboard for EPYC Milan, and I have two 64-core EPYC processors, single socket in each one of these, and half a terabyte of RAM, as well as four 4 terabyte HPE NVMe SSDs and an add-in card on both of these. One of these also has an NVIDIA L4 GPU, which I actually just installed, and that'll be used for AI testing for Nutanix and using Nutanix Enterprise AI service capabilities. So this is really housing all of my Nutanix software. This will actually run my demos. I'll do some Nutanix software testing, etc. So this is really focused on primarily just Nutanix software and Nutanix solutions. So that is the new rack. They actually replaced that, I don't know if you remember, the old Triplite 90 rack that I had in this corner on top of a table. But essentially, this gives me everything I need. It was very reasonable. It's built okay. I wouldn't say it's the greatest build quality. For the price, I think it's great. And then, of course, what I did was I went out and got some Govee LEDs from Amazon and then just wrapped them around, right, the sides, bottom, and top, so I can actually have it light up in there. So, again, I'm not using the RGB so much, the LED RGB. I'm not using that. I'm basically using it to light up the rack inside so I can actually see, because it's very dark in this utility room, and I don't have a lot of lights in here. So, again, this is the rack, and this is going to be for 2025. I don't plan on making any changes other than maybe those hard drives in the NVR. That's possible. And possibly I may get a 25 gig NIC for the second node, for the Nutanix node there that has the L4, and connect that back to my my G24 Enterprise switch. That may be the only two things I may actually do for 2025. I am really focused on not buying anything from a technology perspective for the next year. So my goal is to basically make things last much longer, sweat out the asset, basically. That's how I'm looking at it, is I invested in this, and I want to make sure that the investment goes for a long time. Just like this NAS, this was an original investment, and it was expensive at the time, but I've had it 4 years, and I don't plan on getting rid of it. It still runs like a champ. I shut it down every once in a while, clean it out, blow it out, and it just, knock on wood, I never had a problem with it. Firmware still actively being delivered from QNAP, so I do firmware updates probably once every quarter on this. So again, the idea is to get some longevity out of this rack for the next few years, to be honest. I have plenty of port capacity for 10 gig. I may have to go to, if I add any more cameras, which I don't think I will, go to another PoE switch, or add another PoE switch, but I don't think that's necessary, because I have 4 cameras at the house now. And that's pretty much all I need. It covers pretty much all angles of the house. One of them is pan, tilt, zoom. So I'm going to go outside actually and show you those cameras as well with this. But I want to go up to the office real quick and show you that rack in there. Okay, guys. I'm now in my office here. Don't mind the mess. I'm still cleaning up from Christmas. So that's my desk. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I really want to focus on this little area here. So you guys may have recognized this from a previous post of a homemade rack that I made, I want to say about a few months ago. At that time, I was going to go down the route of using 3 Minisforums MS-01 mini PCs in this rack, and what I found was those just didn't work out for me. The max RAM I had in those was 96 gigs of RAM, and they were not going to cut it for everything I needed to do, and that's why I went and bought the EPYC systems that I showed you a bit ago in my rack downstairs. This rack is for the office and for testing, actually for the office duty, and also testing some non-Nutanix software, more Kubernetes stuff. I'm really focused on Talos right now for minimal distributions that are built for Kubernetes, and I want to really focus on that because I think that's the future. And I see a lot of folks actually looking at those things. Distributions like Flatcar Linux, Talos, etc., really provide a minimal footprint and a low security risk option when it comes to Kubernetes. So I think customers are really looking at those because of that, those reasons. Okay, so let's get into the rack itself. So you can see here I have the Flex 10G switch up here. This is 4-port 10 gig switch with a 1-port 1 gig. I also have a little patch panel above it. I'll show you that right here. You can see that. And basically what this does is it handles all of the things, or going to handle all of the things going in this rack. So you see here I have my NAS. I showed you my NAS downstairs. This is my primary NAS for everything that requires fast storage, right? So this is an all NVMe NAS. It's using quad 4 terabyte HPE NVMe Gen 4 SSDs. So I have a total of, after the Btrfs file system accommodates for 1 drive failure, I have about 11.6 or 11 terabytes of storage for fast storage. This is a 10-core CPU. It's a Ugreen 4-bay NVMe NAS. It actually came, I want to say, with 8 gigs or 16 gigs of RAM. I upgraded that to 96 gigs of RAM. So if I want to run some containers on that using Docker, I certainly could do that. Over to the right is a machine I just built from spare parts. I did have to order this add-on card here that you can see barely sticking out of the machine here. Basically what this is a Minisforum AR900i motherboard, so 24 cores. It's a 13900HX, and I actually upgraded this to 96 gigs of RAM as well. The board includes 4 Gen 4 and Gen 5 mix of NVMe M.2 slots and a by 16 slot. So what I did was I basically loaded those up with NVMe drives, and I bought a Synology add-in card that contains a 10 gig port and 2 additional M.2 ports, where I actually added 2 additional NVMe drives. So a total of 6 NVMe drives and a 10 gig connection connecting back into this Flex XG 4-port Ubiquiti switch. You can see here I have the doorbell chime here. That's actually going away as soon as the wireless doorbell chime comes back in stock. One thing you'll find with Ubiquiti gear, it's so popular that it really is hard to find stock a lot of times because of the popularity of their solutions. I do have a slot here that's empty, and I will have a slot there that's empty. So what am I going to do with those? So I've already ordered, as a Christmas gift actually to myself, a Jetson Orin Nano Super NVIDIA development kit, which I'll be using for edge AI use cases and testing. That'll also be running Kubernetes as well. And so basically what I'll have here in this machine here, the AR900i, that's running Proxmox currently right now. And therefore I can build many different types of Kubernetes solutions, as well as have the Jetson Orin Nano Super with the NVIDIA APU and the ARM CPU. I'll have the compute in the NAS, and of course direct NAS storage access from my workstation to this, and then the Flex XG. And then for this right here, I'm going to keep that there for now. I probably will not be adding anything else to this. Again, this goes back to what I was talking about down in the basement of really not spending any more money on this for a while, and just using this as the future investment for the next year or two. I did take this CyberPower UPS from downstairs in my other rack, and I brought it up here, and so everything's plugged into the CyberPower rack here. One thing that you don't see, or you may see in the back here a little bit, if I can show you, is that other switch here. And you can see that 4-port, that's a Flex mini switch, and that's going to be used for out-of-band management. One thing I did sign up a while for was the KVM on Kickstarter, so I'm waiting for that to come in. It's basically looks like a watch, and it's a digital KVM that I plug into the network, and then I plug back into the motherboard of the Proxmox server for remote control. So I will have a KVM solution, and that'll be actually sitting in this second slot next to the rack and plug into the Flex Mini. And that's what that white cable is for on here. So the blue cable is actually to trunk back to an inner switch link, basically back to this other Flex Mini here for the rest of my networking needs in this office. And the Flex Mini will be used for the out-of-band management. The blue cable is used for, the white cable is used for the Flex Mini inner switch link. The blue cable is used for the inner switch link for, between the two Flex XGs. I know this is not the way to do it, not ideal, but these 3 black cables are for the NAS, for the Proxmox server, and then one will be used for the Jetson Orion Nano. The Jetson Orion Nano really only comes with a 1 gig port, so more than likely I'll just plug that back into the Flex 1 Mini. So that's the little office lab up here. Really quick here, I just actually finalized my workstation build. And to be honest, I was actually going to go with a M4 Mac Mini, the new Mac Minis, but I really wanted 10 gig connectivity, and I really wanted something with, some horsepower. I know the M4 would have done well, but I am an all PC home. I do use Mac for, Apple for my iPhones. Everybody does. Everybody in the house has their own iPad. But I am really an all PC guy. So to me, to have a Mac Mini and remove myself from the PC would not be ideal, to be honest with you. So I stayed with Windows 11 Pro. I use WSL, and I use Ubuntu and other Linux distros within WSL on Visual Studio Code, and integrate that, and it works fairly well once you get used to it. And I'm configured that way and very used to it right now. So here are the cameras that I have set up, the Ubiquiti cameras around my house. You can see here I have one over my garage. This actually is a pan tilt zoom camera right here, and so I can move that around to the back of the house, or the right side back of the house, as well as focus on other locations around the house. This is my doorbell camera, right? So this is a UniFi Ubiquiti doorbell camera, as well as it has a double camera in it to actually focus on the actual porch. And then this is my backyard cameras, one over my garage downstairs in my basement. I have an ideal ranch home that's actually raised on the right side. You can see the wall here, and because it goes down here like this, I actually have a side garage that goes into my basement as well, which is awesome, because I store my lawnmower, all of those things down in the basement in that garage. And then here's the other back side of the house where I can look at my sunroom and look at all that. And then this is the other Ubiquiti solution that I have at the camp. So this is my Ubiquiti 3-camera solution at the camp. I can look at my door, of course, my driveway, the front of the house, the back of the house, basically looking at all doors and most of the windows of the house. So I use Ubiquiti because Ubiquiti just added a new solution they call Vantage Point. And Vantage Point allows me to actually consolidate all camera systems under Ubiquiti under one window, without requiring a specialized device, etc. It uses what's called Vantage Point. Now, the other thing I have connected is I also have a IPsec tunnel that's connected between the camp and my home. So when I work up there in the summer, which is nice to be able to do, I still have complete access to the lab here and all those things through the IPsec tunnel between the two homes. This monitor I purchased on sale in the spring of this year. This is a 39-inch OLED from LG. I absolutely love it. I would say it's not ideal for work, for text, right? So because it's not, it doesn't have a high resolution. It's still only 1440p, so it's 3440 by 1440p. For a 39-inch monitor, it really should be a much broader resolution. I would have loved to have seen this be a 5K monitor, or a 1440p by 5K, but they don't have that yet. And if we ever get there, I probably will go to that because the text will be that much better. This is the workstation here, right? This is a AMD system. Pretty much I've removed all Intel from my home with the exception of that little lab server, Proxmox server I showed you. And this is basically the 16 core CPU 9950X. And it has 96 gigs of DDR5, a few SSDs, and a 10 gig interface. That's why you don't see a fan down here, because there's actually a 10 gig interface on this micro ATX board. And then I have an RTX 4070 Ti Super. So this is running Windows 11 Pro again. And for my coding duties and automation and Linux duties, I just basically use VS Code with WSL. And I've pretty much mastered that now. Being able to run, Docker or, pretty much any popular Linux distro that I want. It just works very well if you just understand how the file system works and etc. It's a little bit different. WSL does use some of the Hyper-V extensions within Windows, so it's basically a virtual instance of Linux running, but it feels more integrated, right? Because I just launched the terminal and launched into WSL very, very quickly. So that is the lab. I won't get into, this is more of the fun stuff down here, the Xbox Series X, my Apple TV, my mesh network. So here's the Ubiquiti mesh system that I have. This is a U6 mesh system. I have the main console here, which is connected to, with that PoE injector to this Flex XG switch. Kind of a waste of a 10 gig port because this only supports 2.5 gig, but oh well, not a big deal. And then on either side of the house facing this mesh point, I actually have a mesh point in my bedroom at one end and in the living room at the other end, which actually points back to this mesh unit. So it works very well. I have multiple TVs in the home that stream 4K constantly, music playing, there's a ton of wireless devices throughout the house, IoT devices. You can see I have some lighting here, so there's definitely some IoT going on here with Philips Hue, and I also invest in, more recently, Govee. I have Govee outside, permanent outdoor lights, Govee lights, etc. So again, I know this is not so technical in a sense, the Govee lights, etc. It's more of a fun thing, but that's kind of, a tour of my home. The lab, obviously the home rack, the new home rack, the lab, all of this is an investment, but it works very well. Ubiquiti has made it very simple from a network standpoint, and in part 2 of this, we're going to show you the software around this and how easy it is to manage and deploy. And then we'll get into more on the Nutanix side, of course. When the Jetson Orion Nano arrives and I actually install it, we're going to have a couple videos on that. So a lot of content planned for 2025, especially in the early months. I look forward to it. I hope you guys have a great new year, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Take care. Content planned for 2025, especially in the early months. I look forward to it. I hope you guys have a great new year, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Take care.